Hello, everyone, and welcome to the August 8th edition of the Product Analytics Group Sync. I will go ahead and share my screen, and we'll get started with the build board review. Hopefully, everyone can see my screen. Resize this to make it a little bit better. All right. These issues have been here and open for some time, so I think unless anyone has anything they'd like to call for those, we can just move on. We've got the issue and planning breakdown for visualization and error handling for dashboard visualizations. I know someone was looking, I think Alan was looking at this, but I don't see it assigned. So unless anyone has anything they'd like to add about this, we can move on. All right, and we've got updating the dashboard style to match the latest design, which is ready for development. So as soon as anyone's available to pick that up, please feel free to assign it to yourself. Otherwise, we'll move to what's in dev. Alan is out. So I think we can move on. I think this is just continuing to instrument using service ping. So relatively straightforward there. Halil, I think you've joined the call. Anything you'd want to call out as far as this dashboard's error issue?
No update right now.
Okay, great. This is the customer facing infrastructure release issue that calls out all of what's remaining to get out to customers, including security improvements and the new issue as well for connecting to ClickHouse Cloud, which I will cover as it's got its own issue further down the list. But as far as the next two issues, we've got follow-ups for adding missing trailing breadcrumbs for analytics dashboard pages, as well as the with full order by modifier that we want to make to the Cube ClickHouse driver. Rob is out on PTO, so I don't think we have any updates there unless anyone else does. Cool. Then last but not least, we have connecting ClickHouse Cloud to analytics stacks. This is our new development as of last week. We've got access to ClickHouse Cloud, a managed service by ClickHouse that has recently released on GCP. And so I'm looking to connect to that to our production cluster, as well as use that for ingesting GitLab.com data. And so hopefully this should help us in a couple of different aspects. Had a further agenda point, which I guess I might as well just explain now. In terms of the security review, because if we use ClickHouse Cloud, we wouldn't be ourselves hosting red data. So I think as far as the analytics stack is concerned for SaaS or .com, we really only have to worry about how we transit traffic red data to ClickHouse Cloud. ClickHouse Cloud itself has been approved for red data usage already. As far as the analytics stack development is concerned, I think everything we need as far as continuing to secure the transit of data is in review. So that'll be my goal, to get those merged in, as well as connecting to ClickHouse Cloud for both our live production cluster as well as for .com, which will get started hopefully in the coming weeks. Cool. Moving on to in review. Jan, you have Cube query rendering, adding visualization options to schema. Anything to call out here?
No, this is just adding some of our especially single stat options to it, which will be handy later on when the visualization designer starts pulling in those schema options to display to the user as inputs.
Awesome. Ellen's got the next one for sensitive fields, which I know has some conflicts with another issue, which I think has since been resolved. So hopefully we can get this through the review process. And then Rob has a MR for the analytics stack to remove all the Jitsi related services. Halil, I think you've already reviewed this. Anything, I haven't taken a look at this yet. Anything that you can comment on?
Yeah, yeah, actually I reviewed, but I'm just holding on merging until I reach the main branch to the production. So.
Got it. Cool. And then Jan, you have the final issue for in review for updating a single dashboard view loading state to match the dashboard list. Anything to call out?
No, this is just a small but part of an ongoing effort to improve our loading state across dashboards. Currently, we have a lot of spinners everywhere, which is not performance compliant. So we're moving towards skeleton loaders.
Got it. And then Halil, you have the two issues in verification. Anything you wanted to call out here?
Yeah, there are scaling verification. Basically, I want to deploy them and then see if it's about the non-default user. About the security improvements. Yeah, this is after verification, we can close it, but I expect some follow-ups based on how the security check will be.
Got it. sounds good. And I'll take a look at your outstanding merge requests as well when I get the chance. I believe the last bookmark was product analytics queries failed to load. I just moved this one because this was in a different project and I moved it over to analytics stack. So that's not actually done yet. So we've got a couple of issues here. One completed creating the configuration screen for configuring product analytics post initial setup. James, you completed the usage view user story map. Anything you wanted to call out here?
The implementation issue is there. There's a clunky wireframe that I put together showing what that's going to look like, and started carving out the different use cases that support for the MVC. Thanks everyone who's taken a look and added questions, but going to start getting that work scheduled here in the next milestone or two. And it's a nice kickstart to the development work as well.
Awesome. Cool. And then Alan's added a loading state to the shared dashboard listing. So we're not just waiting for cube queries to return back before we see the dashboards with a blank screen. So that's a great improvement. We've got to create a custom dashboard flow MVC design issue. James, anything you wanted to call out here?
No, that was just closing out the design part of things. That was Kevin's last task. The implementation issue should have the design attached to it now, so we can start working on Dashboard Designer using the existing visualizations out of the box. And then we'll start working on exposing Visualization Designer in its current state either, so they can start to save new visualizations and add them to custom dashboards as well.
Awesome. And I pinged everyone on the dashboard designer issues to kind of start breaking that down from its current state. So please take a look if you have a moment, because that'll be a focus for the quarter, which I'll get to for OKRs, but also for the next milestone. So cool. And then Halil, you've got the next issue here. Anything you want to call out for removing initialized analytics worker?
So in the last milestone, this initial analytics worker was using Jitsu, and in the last milestone we actually converted to a no-op. This was a cleanup MR to cleaned up that worker.
Got it. Awesome. And then we've got the error popover, which is a lot of fun to try to use. Jan, anything you wanted to add here?
It should now be a lot less fun to use in terms of just being boring and working. Nice. But I think I'm excited to work with whoever we get as a new UX counterpart on just improving this in general, because I feel like popovers on hover is not the right thing to use here. And that relates to another closed issue that I'll talk about later.
Cool. For those that didn't know, this gap here would be the differentiator between being able to actually hover over it to click the link or not. So we have since resolved that. So thanks, Jan. Halil, you've got an issue here for viewing a shared analytics dashboard without permission, shows a 500 error page.
Yes, I closed it, but actually I didn't make a change there. This was already fixed in a previous issue.
Ah, great.
So,
cool. And then we've tweaked the border error border radius for dashboard panels. Owen, thank you for that. And then Jan, you have the next two issues.
Yeah, so the retry button was added. This is just a small quality of life, like UX helper, basically to allow people to retry individual panels instead of having to refresh the entire dashboard. This is especially useful while we're still running into stuff like query timeouts due to like memory limits. The following issue is a GitLab UI issue that I closed as won't fix, because after doing some more UX research into whether or not this should be something we do, I came to the decision that we shouldn't do this. I don't think we should universally increase the delay limit to half a second, because what happens, especially on the dashboard that is completely errored out, is you move your mouse cursor over the dashboard and you suddenly have like 8 popovers lingering on your screen. That's part of why I want to explore like moving this potentially to a click event or finding something else to do this. And yeah, I don't want to apply this to GitLab as a whole, because I think it's going to cause unintended side effects.
Makes sense. Yeah, perhaps we can just have it over the icon or something, or some actual specific trigger as opposed to the entire thing.
Yeah.
But we can figure that out with hopefully a new designer. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Then that wraps up the billboard review. Any final thoughts? All right, then James, I think you have a read only. So I will read it for you, unless you'd like to read it.
I give the TLDR. We're going to keep the UXPM sync in place where it was until we have a new designer, and then we'll sunset that and go back to discussing those issues ad hoc and synchronously, use this meeting or do it in issues.
Awesome. All right, I've got the next one. I just kind of wanted to provide a little bit of some visibility into some work in progress OKRs for engineering. I'm a week late, but better late than never. But hopefully looking for any feedback regarding this. Should hopefully come to no surprise, at least for the first objective. In terms of getting out to customers, I know we're all wanting it, and I think we're making some great progress there to get closer and closer. But of course, not only do we want to get out to the experiment phase, but as James mentioned in the product OKRs, we want to deliver the beta. And so really around that, so the first key result for delivering to customers is just getting out there and getting it in the hands of external customers. But for the beta, this is where things get interesting. And from the engineering side, it is definitely a little bit more infrastructure focused in terms of how do we actually set up monitoring alerting so that we know when we need to direct our attention to scaling the services so that we can continue to help handle customers' use throughout the experiment and beta phases. We've already started discussing how would we actually expose this and how allow users to opt in. James and I have been discussing, we have an issue for the experiments opt-in, similar to how people opt into AI experiments currently, being able to have that toggleable or controlled via feature flag so that we can actually control when people can opt in and out if we find that performance or load is becoming too much for us to handle. At the same time, we are getting to the point where we need to start actually really understanding the costs and how we can actually optimize the performance to know how much the service can handle, our clusters can handle, and how we can scale it, as well as how much it costs so that we can really wrap up the conversation around packaging and pricing. And then, of course, how we want to start to present, as we've seen with the usage view, usage quota, user story map that James has been working on, and how we actually bring that visibility to customers to actually understand how much they're using, and as well as to eventually start exploring how to close that loop with billing as we work towards GA to actually be able to let them know how much they've used and how much they owe us for consumption-based usage pricing. So there's a lot more supporting issues and epics that have to come to this, but I just wanted to call that out and that we would like to, I think once we get out to customers, I think we'll have a lot more momentum to kind of snowball into maturing the platform so we can open this up to everyone. Furthermore, we of course still want to deliver improvements to what we've built so far in product analytics. So the main focus here is completing the experience. We've got schema-driven dashboards and we've got the ability to do it manually, but we want to complete that experience in terms of making sure it's easy to use from a user perspective. And so that means building a UI around it. So this should come to shouldn't be surprising as we're already starting to pull in the dashboard designer MVC and exposing visual designer as it is. But I wanted to call out that we still want to make sure we can kind of complete the UI based experience around product analytics and custom dashboards. So yeah. And then something new that's kind of coming out with the recent launch of GitLab Duo is that the AI framework team and everyone in the borrow request is kind of starting to contribute to building an API so that other features, other groups can bring in their context specific domain to actually help Duo do more. And so we've already started experimenting with natural language querying and using Anthropic's Claude 2 model and things like that. And so the natural next step of that is if the AI framework team is building an API on top of Duo, how can we leverage Duo to potentially perform queries through ClickHouse, passing it through Cube, or we're looking at schema validation. Can we help explain the visualization schemas and things like that? So this is more just exploratory, just to kind of see how we could potentially leverage that as it's maturing within GitLab. So instead of us directly using the models, we can use Duo, which actually based on the user input, determines what tools to use. So given the context of product analytics, we can, potentially leverage Duo there. But those are the OKRs that I have so far. Open to thoughts here in the call or any feedback afterwards. Please feel free to comment. But just wanted to call that out. I've already talked about ClickHouse Cloud, so we have a new face. Ken, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Sorry to barge into your meeting today. I'm here to try and provide a little bit more coordination from infrastructure side and provide support to the team here for any infrastructure needs. Nels and I are working together on the infrastructure side, reliability specifically. And I really want to make sure that, the product and the features we developed here are also successful from an infrastructure point of view. So from time to time, I'll be looking at the agenda and also joining the meeting to make sure that we are providing all the necessary support. And if there's additional help from that Nels need apart from just himself, we can see how do we fast track such.
Awesome.
And thank you for
Good to have you, and happy to have you on the call. Awesome.
Nels, you have the next one.
So I'm going to be the reliability engineer on call EOC this week through August 14th. My availability for infrastructure development with the analytics stack is going to be a little bit more limited this week. However, I'm thinking that there's probably some things that I'll be able to continue to work on so long as I get unblocked by this particular issue that I opened earlier, which is issue 49 in the analytics stack project, which is a request to have the current publication of the analytics stack Helm charts pushed into the ops registry, which is what infrastructure uses to deploy from for their releases into their GKE environments.
And do you have the help you will require here, or at least know how you want to proceed on this?
I think all it really requires is a change to, or either in addition to the existing CI pipeline stage for publication in the analytics stack, or simply the creation of a mirror, a push mirror from the GitLab.com project to the ops.gitlab.net project, and there's a token available for that push if requested.
Okay. I'm happy to dig into this. I guess I'm not as familiar in creating a mirror to this, but it seems like we would have the credentials to be able to do so. So I can follow up with you offline perhaps to see what can be done from there.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Any other final topics anyone would like to discuss? All right, let's get to see everyone. Everyone gets 10 minutes back. Have a good rest of your Tuesday, rest of your week, and take care.